You still got family
This
visiting?
meeting is being recorded.
Awesome.
Always makes me wonder if I need to get a stenographer or something else when that starts. Shabbat Shalom, Baruch Hashem. Now, this was the first mention of the continual burnt offering, but it mentions it in the morning and the second lamb in the afternoon instead of the evening.
Mhm.
So there's argument here whether or not this is actually a mention of the continual burnt offering. And then, of course, the 42, a regular burnt offering for all your generations at the entrance of the Ohel, the tent of meeting, before Yodhe, where I will meet you there to speak to you there. So there is a designation there when the tabernacle, the Mishkan, was raised, where he would speak to all the people. In 43, I will meet the sons of Israel, and it shall be sanctified by my honor, my glory. I will sanctify the Ohel, tent of meeting, and the altar. I will sanctify Aharon and his sons to officiate for me. I will reside among the sons of Israel, and I will be their Elohim. Now, I've read that once before, but since Michael has joined us, I wanted to bring him about. Now, it also mentions a separate altar here for burning incense, and that we place it before the veil of the ark. And he said, this is where I will meet with you. So now we've got 3 areas that he will meet with us to speak to us. Have you ever noticed that before? At the entrance of the Ohel, I will meet with you there and speak to you there. And then, where the incense altar is, you shall place it before the veil, before the ark cover of the testimony, and where I will meet with you. And then in verse 30 and 8, when Aharon lights up the lamps in the afternoon, he shall burn it up, a regular incense offering before Yodhe throughout your generations. Do not offer it on a strange or unlawful incense. Oh, that got a few people burned up, didn't it?
Mhm.
Nor a burnt offering, nor a meal offering, and do not pour a libation on it. In verse 10, Aharon shall atone upon its protrusions once a year with the blood of the atonement sin offering. Once a year shall he atone upon it throughout your generations. It is most set apart to Yodhe. Now, before we go on, let me be asking, that's interesting. Hold on a second. Yeah, that does help a little bit with the light behind me. I don't want to give any false impressions here. Now, that takes us in a few places all the way through the parashah. Does anybody have any questions or comments so far? Any questions or comments?
One of the first things that I'm looking at as you're doing it, it shows the all the different offerings, and I was like, wow. And then where he meets at, which that I remember from when Moshe and Aharon, even when he gave on Sinai, it was in front of the Ohel. So it was just to notice that that is there.
Well, he doesn't really delve into all the different kinds of offerings, all the classes of offerings here, but the offerings mentioned here are in relation to the setting apart of Aharon and his sons as being Kohanim and ministering to the Most High and officiating for him as they serve Israel. Go ahead, please. You have any more comment, Hannah?
No, not right now.
Oh, okay. There's also a study out for looking at the way the verses are coupled together uh, between when the instruction is given and when construction was done. It includes the contributions, the ark, the table, the menorah, the tabernacle, the altar of the offerings, tabernacle court, lamp, priestly garments, ordination ritual, altar of incense, labor, anointing oil, incense, craftspeople, and the Shabbat. So it does get interesting after a while and after a bit. Now, after the temples were erected, nobody really talks a lot about the Mishkan anymore. Now, involved with everything from this parashah, we have the direction that the Mishkan is set up in, and it is shown throughout this parashah how it is set up for the sons of Israel. There's no mention of the sons of Yaakov or the house of Yaakov. Anybody have any questions?
Well, I was thinking when he's giving his commands here, it's for those that are going to choose obedience. So would there be any means to mention to Yaakov because that
Where
would,
did it say that?
huh?
Where did it say that?
I wasn't saying sons of Israel is the ones that were listening to his voice.
True.
So, you know, he's talking to a it's like he knows who his audience is right now.
This is true.
Uh, Maybe that's why I didn't see it before. Okay. There's a map of that.
Okay. Okay. Now, as I said, there's a parallel with a subsequent study between the 7 days of raising the tabernacle and the 7 days of setting apart Aharon and his sons. Was it 7 days that they were setting apart the Mishkan?
8 days, wasn't it? 8
Say
days, wasn't
again?
it? Wasn't it 8 days?
Well, I'm asking if anybody remembers seeing that.
I know they were set apart. I know for the priesthood, they were set apart for 8 days or 7 days, but I'm pretty sure that the Mishkan was a 8 day separate for it.
I'm not suggesting you're right or wrong. I was just asking the question.
Oh,
Anyone else have anything? Nothing? This may be a shorter lesson than I thought. Okay. Now, consider that we have two names for the Mishkan. We have Tabernacle and Tent of Meeting, Mishkan and Ohel. Have any idea why? Go ahead, please.
One was where he came to us. The other is where we come to him.
Which one was that?
Mishkan is him.
Mishkan is Tabernacle. Is that where he had all of us come to?
right.
It was the Ohel, the tent of meeting, where he had all of Israel come before the entrance.
Yeah.
Not everybody coming in.
Yeah.
But the Mishkan is where he would meet with Moshe, Aharon, and sometimes the Kohanim, as well as later on Moshe's apprentice, Yehoshua. So, what would have been the purposes of having both an Ohel and a Mishkan? A tent of meeting and tabernacle.
Well, one was well, they're both set apart, but one was where that the people that he had chosen to designate to represent him came to do the offerings and all that, and the other is for the people to come to him for, like, their judgment and concerns and all that. The people that were serving were now serving the people.
Is that it?
For the moment.
Well, the tabernacle was a one-way street from him to us.
Mm-hmm.
The Ohel was a one-way street from us to him. Now, the fire by day, the cloud by night, the fire by night, the cloud by day. Where did that touch down at? The tent of meeting or the tabernacle?
Tabernacle.
Mhm.
Okay, that is correct.
Him to us.
Right.
Yes. Now, when they had packed up the Michigan and they were moving, cloud by day, fire by night, with everything packed up, where was it coming to?
It was going
That was
before
a
him.
trick question.
It was
It's
going
coming
before him.
to it's still coming to the Michigan. Michigan.
That's right.
That's why he built it, because like he said, this is where my name will reside.
True enough.
Good son.
Which is why it continued in its set apartness, even being moved from one place to another.
But the Michigan was, or the tabernacle was the only one that he his presence was there. And
Well,
his
that's not
name.
entirely correct, sir.
No?
We know that his presence was not there at the second temple.
No, that's why I said the tabernacle. The tent of
Okay.
meeting. Yeah, that was my understanding. No, my understanding is that was the purpose of for him making it, and that's why it was so imperative that Moshe make it according to the pattern that was shown to him on the mountain, was because his presence was gonna be there, because his desire was to be with his people.
Agreed. I accept that.
But I think you had mentioned too that as far as like the Beit Mikdash, his presence, it was just for his name. It was it wasn't, his presence wasn't there.
Well, the first temple, it is mentioned that there were certain things from the tabernacle that were the same. His presence being there was one of those things.
Oh, okay.
However, there are differences, and we can study that in a separate study,
Mm-hmm.
both as a contrast and comparison. Because there have been people already who have done a study between the both temples and the tabernacle. Feeling better, Michael?
Yes. My company's come and gone, and I prepared a quick lunch for Denise, and so whenever you
How's
guys
she feeling?
she's decreasing her narcotic pain meds, and so she's uncomfortable, but that's part of the process. And she's aggressive in her physical therapy, and so that's also uncomfortable. But
I would agree with that.
yeah, but she's showing good progress in her joint mobility. So that's very important.
Okay, well, I'm sure you'll let her know we're all in prayer for her, as well as your entire family.
Thank you very much.
Now, I have a question. Since we've known now through this week's prayer shot that the Most High says, "This is for me and a place for my name to live while I live among you." I have a question. Did his name only reside in the Holy of Holies, a set apart place that was set apart? Or was it the entirety of the tabernacle?
I'll say the entirety of the tabernacle. But I can't produce any evidence. That's what I think.
Okay. All right. There are some who've said that. There are some who've said it. It's actually a divided opinion. Now, once they raised up the tabernacle, they did everything they were supposed to. Aharon and his sons have entered into the priesthood, becoming Kohanim. How did that make any change in Israel?
Well, it makes a change on a whole bunch of levels. If you have the place established where the Most High's name can dwell in all of Israel, and then you have the continual burnt offering, and then you also have the place where all the classifications of the offerings are being made. You have the guilt being removed from Israel, the korban, or to draw close. So they're being drawn close. So all of that is part of that open road back to the Most High.
Now, have you noticed there's a particular sequence in what he set apart and what he set it apart and who he set apart? I'm bringing this question so we can maybe come back to it when people have the answers. Which reminds me, Patrick had an answer from questions before today. Go ahead, Patrick. Are you there, Patrick?
He may have stepped away momentarily.
I gather. Now, I have a question. It shows in this parashah that first Aaron and his sons were to minister to the Most High. And then it says that they were to officiate for him as they served Israel. Based on what we've looked at today, would these two duties be interchangeable, or would they stay straightforwardly in this sequence?
I think they'd stay the same.
Hannah,
Sequence
go
only,
ahead.
I would think Seder, his order. It doesn't, he doesn't move around. He said, I don't change. So that doesn't make sense.
So what do you think? What you read today about how he brought the Kohanim into his order?
He made them the mediator between him and the people. Them and the,
To a degree, yes. He said he would have them officiate for him.
kind of like the anointed one.
Similar, yes, which is why he became the Kohen Hagadol
Hmm.
of the firstborn, the Melech Tzedek. Same duties.
Also, the Kohanim are anointed as the process of being set apart. So
That is true.
Right.
Over the head, right ear, right thumb, and big toe. Right big toe.
So that leads me to a question then. What was it, a couple weeks ago, John asked you about the citizenship of Israel. And you said that in order for you to have a residency in Israel, you'd have to give up, essential paraphrase, you'd have to give up your the tribal levy and call yourself Yehuda. Right?
Yes.
So how does that work? How does that work for any priesthood that they might set up? If everybody's Yehuda, there's no tribal levy, which I find interesting with the word lev, that it means heart. So they were the heart of the Most High. That they're not there, essentially, you know what I mean, in name.
You mean with the fact that they put us aside?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, they still let us have the first Aliyah in Torah readings.
But you're supposed to be the ones officiating it. I see a problem with that.
Well, a lot of things are getting ready to come out in the open.
And I have another question. This is in respects to the tabernacle versus the Mikdash, or the temple. And that is, and I'm not saying that David had this in mind, because I don't believe he did. But is the temple symbolic of maybe the second temple, symbolic of we want a king over us like the other nations? I mean, I know that could be considered a stretch, but I say that because of the tabernacle. The tabernacle, like I said, like I mentioned, that it was specifically for him to dwell with his people, and that's the one that he had commissioned or commanded.
True.
Where the tabernacle or the temple was just like, it's only for my name. Not that, and like you said, his presence was in the first temple, but I just see that.
Why was the temple built?
I see a disparage between the tribal levy with the Most High and them, kind of like Dathan and some of the brothers that were in the wilderness that were upset with upset with the way that things were, and the whole tribe, the earth opened up and swallowed them whole.
Why was the first temple built?
David wanted it. David wanted to build it for the Most High,
Yes,
so he
why?
could dwell there. He wanted him to dwell there
Why?
because he wanted him close to him. He was the apple. He was after the Most High's
No,
heart.
no, you were doing good. You missed it.
Oh,
David had had dreams. David had said, "Look where I'm living, and look how wonderful it is. How can I live like this, and you're living like that? I want
Right.
to build you a better place
that's
than
right.
that."
That's right.
I have a question.
Okay.
Because the Most High commanded the tabernacle of Michigan to be built,
Right.
and it was what he commanded for his name to have a place to live, could there have been a better place than what he commanded?
Absolutely not.
So the Most High showed some wisdom here, some cunning in his own right,
Hmm.
by having the temple built. David, as a king, asked for that.
Right. That's why I was trying to. That's what I was trying to make.
So
the
what
correlation.
was the wisdom in saying yes to David Melech?
So as we became like the world, we could not actually touch what he had already made holy and set apart. Because that temple was not what he had commanded.
Could you elaborate on that?
When this was built, it traveled with the people that he had chosen. Where he said,
Yes.
I will be their God and you will be my people.
Yes.
That temple, people have come and gone that did not choose wholeheartedly to serve him and walk in his ways.
Okay.
And they violated his just all of his set apartness by doing so.
So how does that share with me now, everybody? How does that come together for a difference between him commanding the tabernacle and saying yes to David for what he desired?
Well, when we, in our own human desires, David thought that it wasn't sufficient. So again, his ways being higher than ours, that it was sufficient because he knew
What was the Most High's wisdom in saying yes to that?
he planted a place for them to now go about walking in their own ways. And it would never violate what he had commanded because the people that served him still hold true and make that he set apart. It is still hidden from those that choose not to walk in his ways, even if you were a part of the 12 tribes.
Remember, it is said that the Most High sees the end from the beginning.
Yes, he does. So that is that standard will be there at when he comes again. New Jerusalem, it will stand again.
Well, it doesn't quite say that, but it does say there's no need for the sun or the moon because the light of the Most High is the one that lights New Jerusalem.
It is fire.
This is true. But what happens during the troubles of Yaakov? When the third temple is raised
Well,
and it's set apart,
the
what
Mishkan,
happens in that temple?
the Mishkan can't be defiled because it's not there. It's the temple.
They will start the offering system again.
Yes. And what happens?
Oh, the atonement.
What about it?
Let me go read right quick. Oh my
What
goodness.
unclean thing comes to sit inside the temple? The third temple, once it's raised up and everything's going again, there's something that's going to happen to that temple.
Verse 9 says you are not to offer unauthorized incense, so anything that he has not asked for.
The abomination of desolation,
What's that going to do?
make it unclean.
Why? What's that thing going to do?
Cause him to judge. Yeah.
She's going to make it unclean. Yes. Now, since the Most High didn't command that and did not set that apart, he's making unclean what men have made clean. So there's wisdom there from him being able to see the end from the beginning.
Doing what's right in their own eyes.
Anybody familiar with that?
It's going to be just like Avi and Nadav again.
Or worse?
Yeah.
And Michael, I realize we're not quite at 3:30 yet,
Mhm.
but I'm going to have to attend to a couple of things.
Sure. Okay. How long do you guys want for a break? Need half hour, 45 minutes, an hour, whatever works for you guys. Just so we can plan on when we're going to come back. Anyone? Well, let's try 45 minutes. How's that? Is that workable? Okay.
Baruch Hashem.
Baruch Hashem.
Shabbat Shalom, Michael.
Hey, Shabbat Shalom, Rob.
I'm kind of regathering myself. I had to tend to Esther a little bit and grabbed a quick bite. And so most I took back part of the lesson I was going to do for after the prayer shot. So I'm kind of regathering myself to see
Okay.
what else he's going to do.
Okay.
So how are your prayers before the Most High been with what we talked about? You don't have to mention it now. Just how are you doing?
Good. We can talk later, and I think I have a good resolution.
Okay.
So I'll run it past you, and we'll take it from there.
All right.
I made a blend for Denise of essential oils of tea tree, lavender, and eucalyptus, and put all over her leg. Where the
How's it
operation-
working?
It took the pain away immediately.
That's important.
Yeah, she was.
Was there any inflammation?
Yeah, it's swollen badly.
Okay. I'm sure what you gave her helped with that as well.
And I didn't even realize it. I found just a nasty bruise and almost an open sore where the buckle of the tourniquet was,
Oh,
and it's on the bottom of her thigh, and I just hadn't looked there, and so I found that this morning when I was putting the oil on. So I'm glad. It looks like a nasty sore.
how'd she respond to you?
She was very grateful for the relief. She just got done with PT, just more or less stretching. And she cut her narcotics in half for today. And so she was very thankful for a topical relief. So that's going good.
So what'd you think of the lesson you heard so far?
I thought it was interesting. I think that I need to study more carefully. And I'm excited to get a Crown edition. The more I look now at the art scroll, nothing really jumped out at me when I first bought the art scroll. But as I read it more, there's an agenda in the translations of words. So,
Well, there's an agenda with all of them.
sure.
However, with the Crown, it utilizes the Aleppo Codex along with the Leningrad Codex, and they are in fact the two most reliable that we have.
Right.
The only one that is that much reliable or more is Dr. Goebel's Orthodox Jewish Bible.
I remembered something I was going to share with you. I've been going back and rewatching the recordings from the Shavuot conference,
Okay.
and I watched the one last night when you were talking about Baptist and dating back to the man baptisma.
Yeah.
So I say this so that you will know when you're talking to people who grew up in the West and have studied the New Testament that's been translated from Greek, that in the New Testament, in the Greek language, the word for immerse is baptismo.
Right?
That's why John Yachanan the Immerser was named John the Baptist. So they're going to immediately tell you, well, the Greek word that we know, man, it means full immersion, because, and you know that from the rest of the Greek literature outside of the Bible, is that like when a sink ships, it talks about a baptismo. So like the way I was trained growing up, I would have said, well, you know, from the Bible that we have, that's the word that's in the Bible. So I'm not following the man, I'm following what the scripture says. So
There's a lot we can learn from history, as well as the ones who wrote history. For example, the reason we study by Parashot is because of Ezra's Great Assembly.
oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. And the reason we do it every Shabbat is because of early Pharisaic influence in Pharisaic Judaism, still
Okay.
based in Ezra's Great Assembly.
Mhm.
Before then, reading Torah fully was once every 7 years.
I have heard that. It is very interesting how so many of those ancient influences are still with us today, both for the good and for the detriment.
I would agree with that. Please let Denise know Esther wants a Zoom time with her of their own.
Okay, sure. I'll have to get that set up on her laptop. She brought her work laptop home.
Okay.
I'm upstairs, so she can't come upstairs right now, or
Okay.
it'd take a tremendous amount to get her up there.
It would either have to be in the evening after 6 or on a Tuesday or Thursday.
Okay. That would work well for us because we have the physical therapist comes into the home on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So Tuesday, Thursday is an off day. So she was telling the therapist that I push her in physical therapy too. What? So it was fun because the therapist said, well, as long as he's not, you know, tearing anything, he's just kind of encouraging and pushing you, that's a good thing. So
Do you hear much from Carolyn or?
zero. I need to reach out to her more.
How about her writing buddy?
Oh, Bob,
Uh-huh.
if I send him a text, usually the following first day of the week, he'll respond to me. So,
Well, he's been listening on YouTube.
oh, he has.
And he
Okay.
gives offerings pretty regular.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, good.
And he'll send me text every week or so when I'm talking to him about things.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good. I'm delighted to hear that.
So right now, I'm still waiting before the Most High for him to give me what he wants there instead of what I was going to present. If not, right this moment, I don't have a lot more to present.
You mean today?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, because I had some follow-up teachings for people to understand, but he kind of just took it right back.
Okay.
Don't know that it was anybody's fault or whatever, but that's what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Are you tired today?
A little bit. I've been sleeping on the couch next to Denise, but I get woke up too many times through the night. And it's just having that happen 4 days in a row. It's really got me exhausted.
I understand.
Yeah.
Well, is Patrick with us?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you're just kind of sitting back and listening, I see. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good right now. I'm feeling better
What'd you
than I
get
did
from,
when I woke up.
what'd you get from the lesson so far?
Um, I guess what I kind of started out with questions was about the whole remembrance and how important that was, or how important that is to the Most High to remember the children of Israel and speak on behalf of them, even if they're not there. I don't know. That whole process, the garments, the Mishkan. To me, it's fascinating. I'm fascinated by it because of the Most High's desire to want to be with His people. I don't know. I just find that amazing. I find it very, very fascinating.
You're not the only one that feels that way.
I mean, because the other thing is with the garments is it was more than just a specific like a work. It was more than just a work uniform. It to me it seems like it's it it almost like it almost like spoke and had it, had, for me it's almost like it had kind of a language of its own. And there was a lot of things involved in it that I've only come in a little bit of understanding of, or seemingly understanding of. That's it's really just amazing to me.
Okay. I would agree with that as well.
I have a quick question for you, Rabbi.
I'll try.
On the concerning the tent of meeting and the tabernacle is, I'm trying to picture it, so that's what's going on. Is the tent of meeting the cover over the entire courtyard?
No.
Okay.
I threw that out there last time just to get people thinking and hoping that they might go back and do some more reading and research,
Okay,
just so they would see for themselves. The set apart places where the ark is at and everything, and the area immediately beyond it is what's covered.
what's beyond the Ark of the Covenant?
Well, you've got the altar of incense.
Oh, okay, so all right, I would consider that before it, but I don't mean to be overly technical.
Oh, that's fine.
I see, so you're coming from the perspective of where the Ark is itself.
Yes,
You'd have the altar of incense, and then the menorah and the showbread and the altar outside and the laver.
yeah.
Okay. So tell me again, now that's the tabernacle you said?
Mhm.
The word Mishkan Tabernacle is where the Most High interacts with us, like a
Okay.
one-way street.
Okay,
Okay, Ohel Tent of Meeting is where we interact with him, one-way street.
okay,
There's an interplay and interaction back and forth between the two.
right,
There were only a few people allowed beyond the entrance to the tent of meeting. Okay,
Right.
and to the Mishkan.
okay,
So the set apartness was not compromised, interrupted.
right. So is the tent of meeting at the entrance to the Mishkan?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay. Very interesting. When I studied it before these recent lessons, I had always taken it to be two different words for the same tent.
That's what most people who don't know much about Hebrew think.
Right. But that makes a lot more sense.
When people would bring their offerings, especially if there had to be a slaughter, slaughtering was done outside of
Mhm.
the entrance,
Oh,
and then
Yeah, it was brought in.
the dissected portions, okay,
Well, no.
were brought into the tent of meeting to the altar.
Mhm.
okay. So the blood was outside.
Yes, and it had to be brought inside whenever it was put on the edges of the altar.
Okay. All right. So it was caught in a vessel of some type, a
Mhm.
bowl or a
Yes.
pitcher? Sure. Okay. Very good. So the owner of the offering was standing there. That makes sense. I'm remembering now. Okay.
Even when somebody gives an offering today, we still have to assess the heart.
Okay. Sure.
That's why sometimes I'll ask somebody, "Are you sure about this? Are you sure? Are you ready?"
Right. Yeah.
Remember, the Most High does not judge by looking on the outside, he judges by the heart.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the part that I was going to share with everybody, and it looks like everybody's listening at the moment, uh, there is the use of the word garment or garments, plural, is used in a lot of different ways in Scripture. Okay? For example, when we were working in the when the Kohanim were working in the uh, Mishkan as well as in the temples, we had a certain set of garments on. But then when our work was over for the day, we would have to change clothes we could not wear those clothes outside of the set apartness of that place. Yet it's still the set apartness that he has set us as individuals apart with, okay, stays with us, but not the set apartness of the garments for his work. So we officiate for him 24/7, okay? However, the garments that he gives us for the offerings agriculturally, the offerings of animals, we can only wear that while attending to the altar or the incense, the showbread, etc. Okay. And so we have to put on and take off those set apart garments anytime we are working at the altars, officiating for him to the people, or we also have that set apartness with different clothing when we as primary Torah teachers are working, or judges, or anything else that he's given us to officiate to. But I wanted people to see how he, from the beginning, set us apart for things that he had designed for us to do. What was interesting is while everybody's focused on the sons of Aharon, nobody's looking at the firstborn anymore. But they still had their job to do as well. They were the princes of the tribes. They were judges as well. And it was they who sat before the Most High underneath of him, and he ate. So what I was going to mention from a study of garments was the highest order of garments that he can give us is whenever he gives us garments of his righteousness, his judgment. It's interesting the way that the writers of the different letters of the New Testament talk when they speak of the way a woman dresses modestly. Her dress is actually either naked or clothed with material. She still is supposed to be covered with her husband's righteousness, her own righteousness. A woman has more coverings than a man that are possible. Okay? And so not only does she have the covering from her husband, not only does she have a covering of her hair, a covering of a type of shawl or katan or kerchief. She also has, based on her obedience to the Most High and her love for him through fruit of the Spirit, she also can be given a garment of righteousness individually. Okay? And so there's a lot to be said for a study of the garments and how we are clothed with them and what their purposes are. So I don't know if that makes any sense immediately, but it is there. It's, for example, water, washing our hands and washing our feet, representing our directions and our path, as well as the works we do, or what the Most High required, even in the tabernacle and the temple for us Kohanim. Now, other than that, during the Pesach, we sprinkle water on our hands for them to become clean. The same with our feet again. So it gets interesting when we look at a study of garments, and there's an exploration, a study on clean and unclean, tahor and teveh. So that's principally what I was going to cover. Any responses from anybody? That might be a good time for you to take that for those things, Michael.
Okay. I was just remembering that John the Immerser, his parents, it says that they were both righteous.
Yes.
So it's an explicit example of a man being righteous, and it explicitly says that his wife Elizabeth, in English, Elizabeth was righteous. So it's encouraging for us.
Say again.
I said that's encouragement for us.
Well, righteousness and judgment are both the same word, used in different contexts and syntax. So we
Right.
know when it's judgment and whenever it's righteousness. The righteousness is not only being correct and toward observance. Righteousness is the fruit of the Spirit from your heart, combined giving it loving obedience, joyful obedience, compassionate obedience, kind obedience. Okay, there's a lot to be said there for that. So, go ahead.
I
Anyone
got a
else
question.
have some feedback?
I got a question. In the, on the vestments of the Kohen Hagadol, the hem of the garment had a bell, pomegranate, and a bell. Now, I've heard the simple explanation is for sound. What's the purpose for that? That you would put a fruit with the bell?
Specifically, the pomegranates.
Yeah.
There are several different areas that are mentioned there. The bell is not so much for the Most High as for everybody else to hear.
Okay.
The pomegranates, in some circles, we are taught that they are emblematic of before they were called fruits of the Spirit, they were called attributes of the Most High. So the actions and words of the Kohen Haggadah have to be pleasing to the Most High in order for his vestments, his garments to remain set apart. And it has to be the wholeness of them, not any particular part of them.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, question. Why the pomegranate? He heard that.
Well, we're going to have to discuss that another time
Okay.
because you got to combine a little history and tradition with our people.
Okay.
So how about the breastplate as a calendar?
Calendar?
Calendar. I know it's
Meaning
set out for the 12 tribes, but the 12 months in the year, like a calendar.
Well, it's a nice idea, but do you have some references for that?
Well, I got the idea. I got the idea from the Wheel of Stars.
Oh, I thought so.
Wow.
My friend and colleague, Andrew.
Yes, sir.
Well, do you remember the references he used for that? If
Job?
not, perhaps we can cover it during the conference if you remind me.
I believe, I believe Job was one of them.
Yeah.
Job and, the other one escapes me.
I
There was
see you're still
also,
recording, Michael.
Say it again?
You're still recording.
Yep. We all done with that part?
Patrick?
what? Do I have any more questions?
For the recording?
Oh, yeah, okay. The design, the way that it's set up, the tunic on the Kohen Haggadol, the blue tunic with the nameplate in the forehead, as a means of showing that everything comes from above and comes down, or everything comes from the Most High and comes down to the earth.
Go ahead.
Uh, that, well, of course, you know where I got that information from. That being the sign that everything is shown in the heaven, and then there's an earth, and then there's then the earth sign, so to speak.
Go ahead.
That's what it, it is. I guess is that correct? That was, it was a symbol. It was symbolism of how it works. Like I guess the best way to say it would be, in reference to Moshe being on the mountain, and he gets the description of how to build the Mishkan, and says build it according to this. That the sign was the earth sign. The Mishkan is symbolic of what's in the heavenly. It's the same thing
Okay.
with like our how some people choose to argue the beginning of the year, that
Right.
everything starts out in the heavenlies and then there's an earth sign. That's the reference, or that's
Yes.
the piece that I'm.
I understand it.
So that's a truism then, right?
You could say at the moment it is a truism.
Okay. Thank you.
We'll have a tendency to go over that in greater detail.
I'm always open to finding out new things.
So am I.
Okay, we'll stop it right there.